Hello, Mr. Fox here. I want to talk today a little bit about innovation and what is innovation. To me, it's taking a good idea and then kind of thinking about other ways you can use that idea to come up with some better ideas or some different ideas and look into new markets. So how we're going to do that is by making quesadillas. Let's make some different kinds of quesadillas. Let's start by going out and picking some herbs. So we're going to start out by grabbing a couple of herbs out here in our herb garden. This here is thyme. This is oregano. We have some marjoram over there, some winter savory. But for today, all we're going to use is some epazote, which I have right here. Not too many, because my plant isn't very big yet this year. It's early in the season, it'll grow. And then we're going to move on over here and grab some sage. So these guys are pretty big, so I might as well just grab a couple of stems and then I can take the leaves off in the kitchen. All right, let's go back into the kitchen. Okay, so we're gonna start out with a what I call my Michoacana quesadilla, which has Mexican chorizo from a local Mexican market that I'm frying up right now, and also a cheese or queso from the same market, but it's actually Don Froilan Botanero, and this is a cheese from a local quesadilla. And the cheese factory is actually being built across the street from SeaTech right now. Currently they're in Albany, Oregon, but they're moving up to Salem, Oregon on the Portland Road. I tried this particular one a couple of weeks ago and I loved it. So I just picked up another pack, but it's a artisanal Mexican cheese that has jalapenos in it. So that's gonna be in our first quesadilla. I'm not sure what this pan is called exactly, but I've had this for years. And I love it for making quesadillas and some other things. But you can find this at Mexican markets locally in Salem, and they're very inexpensive. I'm going to go ahead and get started by putting a couple of tortillas on that pan. Let's go ahead and cut into that botanero queso. And the way I like to make quesadillas, you're probably familiar with grated cheese on a quesadilla. But I just slice it, it melts just the same. Now the Mexican cheeses don't usually melt quite as easily as like a cheddar and some other familiar cheeses, but this one does melt okay. And it really is delicious. It's jalapeno and cilantro. And I know I'm cooking with my hands, but that's how I cook, folks. There we go. Ooh, and look at that chunk of jalapeno there. There we go. I think these are going to be just a little bit delicious. And we're going to go ahead and put the epazote leaves on this one as well. Started. Now epazote, it's kind of hard for me to describe the flavor. It's almost like kind of spinachy. It has that thickness, that crunch of a spinach, but also has kind of an herbal essence to it. And it looks like our chorizo is about cooked up. And I'm stirring it with a spoon with a cooking spatula that a SeaTech student made for me. Somebody in the, I think, the drone program. But also likes to manufacture things. And he knew that I like to cook, so he made a cooking spatula for me. And I think that looks about right. So fire is off. And we're going to go ahead and take that chorizo that's been crisped a little bit. And you can see how the botanero cheese is actually melting really well in there. I think these are going to be really delicious. Okay, so I have a bottle of Fuego del Zorro. which is my custom hot sauce made from habanero peppers I grow in my own garden. And of course, no quesadilla, regardless of what region it comes from, would be complete without some Fuego del Zorro. Maybe about 3 or 4 splashes is all we need. Sometimes I'll add a little salt to a quesadilla, depending on what kind of cheese I'm using. But the Mexican cheeses tend to be well salted, so you don't need to do that. Oh, look at that. Sometimes I like a little bit of browning on my quesadillas. Turn the heat down just a little bit. So you'll see that the tortilla shrinks a little bit when you make quesadillas. So the one that we just flipped over was on the top. It hasn't shrunk, and that's how I know sometimes when the other one is ready, is that it will shrink down closer to the size of the one that we just flipped over. Okay, whoa. Looks like these are about ready. A little bit of a mess there. Okay, so our next quesadilla, we're going to do, how about if we do French? So French cheese is often a soft cheese, soft, stinky cheese sometimes. So this one we are going to use brie. You might be familiar with brie, but it's a soft cheese that's very buttery and delicious. So it has a very low melting point, so it's sometimes a little challenge to work with, but it's delicious. And now I'm putting on some pesto, which you can buy at the store. Pesto is made with garlic and basil, and traditionally with pine nuts from a pine cone. But this pesto is homemade out of from basil that I grew in my garden and garlic that I grew in my garden. And instead of using pine nuts, I use hazelnuts, also known as filberts, because that is a very common organ crop. I also like to add some thin tomato slices. You need a very sharp knife to do this, or a serrated knife will work. Looks like we could use another. With this one I am going to add a little bit of salt because it's wonderful on the tomatoes. This one we can go ahead and keep simple. Maybe we'll put a couple of drops of Fuego on it to give it a kick. Put those top tortillas on and give them a flip. There we go. All right. All right, let's see if I can do this without a major fail. Whoop, there's one. No, failed. No. Okay. All right, so that wasn't too bad of a fail. We're gonna move on now to a Spanish quesadilla. This one I'm gonna call Quesadilla Zorro. And with this one, we're gonna use manchego cheese, which is a traditional Spanish cheese. If you ever eat at a restaurant in Spain, more than likely they're going to bring a plate of manchego cheese to your table as an appetizer. And the way it usually works in Spain is that you don't order the cheese. They'll just put a plate of cheese and meat on your table, and if you don't eat it, you don't have to pay for it, and if you do eat it, you do have to pay for it. I found that out the hard way. But I didn't mind because it was delicious. And not very expensive, that's right. It's affordable. So, plenty of manchego cheese. There we go. And on this one, I'm going to go ahead and put some sage, the sage that we picked up from the garden. It's delicious fresh. It's kind of musty, musky, I should say, not musty, musky with a K, and pungent, so you don't need a lot of it. And I'm going to use Spanish smoked paprika, which is very common in Spain, and it's from a mild sweet pepper. It's not a hot paprika, it's mild but smoky, so it gives it that kind of a smoked cheese flavor. And I use this even on just cheddar cheese quesadillas. It's wonderful. And I feel like there was something else I wanted to add to this one. Well, definitely some fuego. And maybe a little bit of flaky sea salt. And maybe a little tiny bit of dried oregano would be good. Oh, that looks delicious. That's very basic and simple. So the manchego I cut really thin, so I'm going to add just a little bit more to the top now. I have a feeling this is going to be very delicious. And we'll go ahead and put the top tortillas on. Give it a little flip. All right. Okay, let's see if I can do this without a fail. Okay, now we're down to our last type of quesadilla today. Now I think we could do hundreds of these. You could think about different ways of eating all over the world. You know, you could do a German one with sauerkraut and bratwurst. You could do a Vietnamese one with, you know, chicken pad thai. I'm sure there are a number of ways you can do these. But right now we're going to do this one I call the Ugly American. So we're going to use American cheese singles, which is something you're normally not going to find in my house. But I thought for this quesadilla it would be absolutely appropriate and delicious. Let's put that there. I believe these should melt very nicely. So I'm going to break that in little pieces and get it in there. There we go, that's for that one. So there we go. We have American cheese, a slice of bologna. Let's see, what should we do next? How about some iceberg lettuce chopped up? There we go. How about some Fuego del Zorro? Ooh, I know what we should do. How about some mustard? And no American quesadilla would be complete without some Cheetos on top. You could do this with jalapeno or red hot Cheetos. You could do it with Takis, you could do it with Doritos, you could do it with Fritos, but I just felt like Cheetos was the appropriate accoutrement to this one. Maybe a little bit of cracked black pepper. There we go. I think that's all we need on this one. And you gotta crunch it down if you can, like you would with a sandwich. And let's go ahead and try a flip. Wow, I didn't lose any Cheetos on that flip. Let's try that again. All right, there we go. Now let's go ahead and take these off the fire. See if I can do this without an epic fail. I think the trick, when you adjust your flame, when you adjust your heat, whether it's an electric burner or gas or whatever you use, you want that flame to be, if you start at a medium heat, you want to go as low as you can while still having it at a good heat to make the quesadilla I think I found through this experiment that once I get going, I want it to be just slightly higher than like a medium low, because I want that bottom tortilla to thicken up a little bit. Personally, I like it to be a little firmer. Some people want it a little bit softer. But when it's firmer, I'm less likely to have a fail. All right, my daughter Summer and I are going to try these quesadillas and tell you what we think. So I guess we should start in the order that we cooked them. And that would be the Michoacana first with the chorizo and epazote, and with the Don Froilán botanero queso. So we'll go ahead and cut it into quarters. There we go. And a little plateau for you. All right, here it goes. That's really nice.
And chorizo's good.
Woo! That has kind of a kick. Now I'd like to say it's because of the Fuego del Zorro hot sauce we put in, but it's a little bit different flavor, so I think it's the jalapenos and the jalapeno cilantro cheese.
Maybe a little bit from the chorizo as well.
Yeah.
Just a whole bunch of spice.
All right. Next, we're going to try the French quesadilla. Let's call that one the Parisian. And again, it has soft brie cheese, tomatoes, and homemade pesto. And of course, Fuego del Zorro hot sauce. Now this one is a softer cheese, so it's a little gooier, a little softer. Go ahead and grab one. Oh man. I haven't tasted the other two yet.
This
but
one
right
might be
now
good.
this is amazing. Now we're on to the Spanish one, which was very simple and minimal, and it was manchego cheese, sage from the herb garden, and a little bit of Fuego del Zorro, and a little bit of flaky sea salt on the top of that. All right. That's nice.
It's smoky.
It's smoky with the smoked paprika, but also the sage gives it a nice earthy flavor. I like that.
Ready.
All right, last but not least, the Ugly American. So again, that was with American single sliced cheese, bologna, iceberg lettuce, mustard, and Cheetos. Cheetos. All right.
I'm a little bit scared to try this one.
Oh, don't be scared. It's adventure. There we go. Okay, go ahead and take a slice. Look at that, it looks delicious. That tastes like America on the 4th of July.
It's not as bad as I thought it would be.
That's good. I like it. If you like bologna sandwiches and Cheetos, this is a gluten-free solution. Well, thank you for cooking with us. Try your own experiment at home and share it.